Hello everybody, welcome to my Datacron Set 12 review, where we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly for everything with this set, going from stats to all the mechanics, alignment, faction, and character. There's a lot of repeat elements in this from set 8, which was coincidentally the same color, and then some other repeats from other Datacrons gone by, so we'll talk about it, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not a huge fan of this set overall. And by far my least favorite thing about this set is the stats. And some people that hate Datacrons will actually like this because you might as well have no stats in some cases. So the only good ones, I'm just showing the level 7 and 8 amount of a stat. So for level 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 stat boost, it'll be less. The only redeeming quality is armor penetration and resistance penetration. Armor penetration is on its own pretty valuable, and then resistance penetration has its uses, like Fennec Shot or something, but special damage is a lot less common than physical, so we don't see that come into play very often. But they are split, so you really have to target who you're using. You don't just have an overall defense penetration. If you're not familiar, armor means physical damage, resistance is attacking, is like special defense, so resistance penetration is targeting special defense. So you're not going to be able to have a catch-all in a mixed faction, and it's going to be really hard to just target those stats. Because also, so bad stats we have. Crit chance alone is bad, but then when you split it up to physical and special, it's really bad. But it's better than the last stat, which is split accuracy. Special accuracy and physical accuracy. Accuracy on its own, when it incorporated both special and physical, is already bad. It's bad enough. Why split it to special and physical? These are terrible. The only good thing about it is you can just rest assured you have not missed anything on the stats. Just go for the rerolls with some of the character mechanics you like, and don't worry too much about the stats. Yes, you could get a lot of armor penetration, that might help out, but you're really not going to miss it too much. I don't know. I think this is, bar none, the worst set of stats we've ever seen on a Datacron set. Like, no arguments. Now moving on to the level 3 alignment mechanics, starting with dark side, and this does have both light side and dark side. So there's a couple of good ones, but I really don't think you want to target dark side in this set overall, because when the stats are bad, and the best faction, Scoundrels, is only available if you roll light side, so we'll talk about that later. With dark side, you're only looking at Hutt Cartel and Tuskens, and that's really only 2 teams. But if you don't have any good set 10 or set 11 and set 13 ends up being bad for dark side, the stacking offense is decent in theory. However, it is very limited in practice. You have to start your turn with at least 2 buffs that can be dispelled, and you only gain 5% offense each turn. So how many turns do you really take? You got to take a lot before you actually you have to take 10 turns before you get the equivalent of an offense up. This is not good in practice, but it is very widespread possibilities. It's just, don't expect too much from it. And we had this before. By the way, these alignment mechanics are a carbon copy from set 8, minus the protection off for damage over time. That's the only change. They're all the same. This extra potency is nice, and Grievous, his team likes a lot of potency, getting those target locks out, where Jay would make use of it. There's plenty of others, but there's just some examples. First I had Afra here, but you cannot get the Afra level 9 Datacron if you have a dark side. So you're just gonna have to forego that on her. Otherwise it would be great, but you really don't want to miss out on those Scoundrel faction abilities or the Afro ones. And then some bad ones. The granting of buffs, health, and protection is good in theory, but dark side teams don't necessarily give a lot of that out. Wat Tambor gives a lot of buffs out. Malgus kind of does. Inquisitors definitely do, but you really want to use them for set 11. So like I said, you want to focus on set 11 in most cases. And for the recover 2% health whenever you critically hit an enemy, that's very rarely useful. It's only good for massive health pool characters. Like Lord Vader could heal 10% of his health with an AoE. Otherwise, it's just a terrible version of Hellsteel. I should actually probably have it in the ugly category. But dark side, like I said, you pretty much don't want to target a lot of these. Next, we got the light side mechanics, which are just the flip version of the dark side. All the same abilities, so I'll just throw them all out right away. I think this is what you're going to want to target. You just want light side in general. If these 3, you could find a place for all of them. Buffs are more prolific with light side, so that recovery is going to be nice, especially with Yoda and Bastila, where you're getting a lot of buffs. Admiral Radis, that's going to be a lot of recovery, so pretty decent. The offense stacking, pretty widespread too. I mean, JMK, like these are just some examples, but any buff-heavy team, you can probably like that. And then teams that you do want a lot of potency or have like a big move that needs potency in the beginning, like JML, you want a lot of potency for his F-Lux move. You can get widespread ability blocks, kind of nice, although I would still use set 11 for him. Most of these, like set 11 is just better for now, except for maybe Scoundrels. And yeah, probably Scoundrels is better. So CLS team, you might get some good out of that. Like potency really helps there, and like it activating with less than 4 debuffs is pretty generous. It's not like they can only have 1 or 2. Like if they have less than 4, you're getting tons of potency. And in 5v5, that's 150% potency. 3v3, it's 90. Still a nice boost. R2 could get a lot of burning out there in stuns. I just don't really see a place for this 2% health recovery. The only reason I put it like as bad and Lord Vader is a possibility because he's only health. Otherwise, this is just terrible. So yeah, go for the light side, but don't sweat too much. So I wouldn't really try to re-roll to target any of these because none of them are really worth that much. They're just a little bit of a nice touch. Now we move on to our first faction mechanic set, which is Tuskens, and this is where this set is exactly a copy of set 8. You have all the exact same ability options. And since you're only running one team, you only really need to pick one mechanic to go for. This is the best one, and again, these are all a repeat. This is the one where they're giving the enemy turn meter, so you can trigger all the momentum on your side. You're giving them damage over time. The only downside to the Tusken combo is we don't have the stacking protection up from the level 3, so you're going to have to get something else on that bonus there. But absolutely targets this one if you can't. If you can't get it, damage immunity can sometimes help out, and plus 100% damage. If you have the level 3 for recovery based on health getting buffs, this one might fit in more. These two, not really good. This is recovery based on 50% of the enemy's recovery. And this one is the one we keep seeing everywhere. Falling below 50% health, all of the allies of that faction. Reduce the cooldowns by 1, gain 10% turn meter. I mean, I've never seen anyone really set this or like rely on it. It's never come into play. It's just so minor. It's situational. They gotta fall below 50% health. I don't know if that just applies if they just get defeated or if they have to stay alive under 50% health. 10% turn meter, not great. Cooldowns, kind of nice. But yeah, definitely this one is going to be really ugly. And by the way, if you're new to these videos, when I highlight something in black, it's strong ugly. If I highlight in orange, it's just really, really, really bad ugly. So this is an instance of an ability that is so strong that it's ugly. Now we'll come to the flip side of the Tusken coin, which is the other minor faction from the Sands of Tatooine, the Jawas. And again, this is a one-team faction at max, and quite a luxury team at that. Like, players that have relic Jawas, I don't know, they don't really care. They have a lot of other stuff. Like, I mean, some people got them up as, like, part of the challenge pit raid, even though I don't think that was really, like, that great of an idea. I'll just show all the abilities so we can evaluate them at the same time. Starting with the strongest, like, the ugliest one is this one. The one with the most text, who would have known? At the start of the battle, Jawa allies gain 100% bonus protection. So bonus protection is not protection up. You can't even dispel that stuff, so that's extremely annoying. Like, they're going to be really hard to get through. You have to get through all that extra HP. And all enemies are inflicted with provoked for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. And you'd be forgiven if you forgot what provoked was. It's this, like, opposite retribution buff where, yes, you get 100% counter chance, but it doesn't do that much damage. Like, it nerfs your damage attacking on a turn no matter what, even if it's from an assist or a counterattack, and then you take damage yourself. So it's going to be forcing you to attack the Jawas and doing no damage, but you're going to get more thermals on you. And then whenever an enemy takes damage from a thermal expiring, Jawa allies recover health and protection, get 5% turn meter, and there's an 80% chance the enemy is inflicted with a thermal detonator for 1 turn, which is irresistible. So this is going to be a problem. I mean, people setting Jawas, it's going to be annoying, but this is a whale. This is a whale faction. Like, this is not, like, useful to the common person. For Crate Raid, I was talking about C-Pit, but, like, Crate Raid, they weren't that impressive. Like, I don't know how many people geared them up or ulted them up just for the Crate Raid, but I don't know. It's going to be annoying. I don't want to have to deal with it, but I'm sure I will. Other good ones, this stacking potency and tenacity whenever debuffs expire. I mean, that's kind of nice. Like, they're going to be wanting to inflict more thermals and resist debuffs, because one way to help deal with them is to debuff them a lot. So that could be good. The damage immunity, this is a very common one. It's okay if you can't roll this one, but this is absolutely the best. And then the protection, health, and protection recovery, that could actually be really annoying. It's going to feel like you're facing Shutagawa. And I forget what Shutagawa, that like modifier from Conquest, does specifically. But it's going to feel kind of like one of those teams, maybe. Actually, we have pretty much a third Tatooine faction now that I think of it. Hutt Cartel is what that icon is. There's a couple good ones and one really strong one that I'll get to. So we have the when you defeat an enemy, take a bonus turn. That's pretty nice, but if there's a kill from a thermal detonator, I don't think that's going to register, so you're not going to get the bonus turn there, so something to think about. But even if you have a Hutt Cartel in a non-Java team, like Boba Fett and Bounty Hunters or something, you get a bonus turn, so it might be nice. Whenever enemies are damaged at the start of the turn, Hutt Cartel allies gain 2% turn meter. It's okay. I mean, 2% is not that much. You're just gaining some turn meter from the thermals going off, but I don't think it's the winner out of this. And then really bad ones, this same 50% health cooldown increase. We see it everywhere. Damage immunity, like a really common repeat. It could be nice, but I'm saying it's bad because it does something that this other ability does, like at a discount. So this one also has the damage immunity clause, just no health steal, but who cares? But then says, whenever an enemy takes damage from a thermal detonator expiring, Hutt Cartel allies recover 5% health and protection, gain 5% turn meter, and there's a 50% chance that an enemy is inflicted with a thermal detonator for 2 turns. It can't be resisted or dispelled or anything. So this like has, I don't know, it has the same thing. Like this is this, but better, plus this, and then other stuff like just more thermals, more protection, more recovery, more turn meter. It's going to be pretty crazy. So this is yet again a basically one team faction. So if you're going for the best Datacron, definitely get the big wordy one. Who would have known? And now finally we have the one saving grace, the best redeeming quality for the common player. The Scoundrel faction, which is, by the way, a light side only. We had Scoundrel as a faction level 6 before, but that was in set 6, and that was a dark side only Datacron. So in order to roll the Scoundrel faction, you need a light side Datacron. So that is why I recommend a lot of light side. And most of these are awesome. Like I have this ugly one shrunk because I don't have any ugly, so there are none so bad that they're ugly. None like overpoweringly good. They're all just very strong. This one's a repeat from set 6. Use a basic, you get your cooldowns reduced and gain 100% turn meter. That's awesome. I see that working really well with Dash. He does his big AoE first, next turn does a basic, and then the AoE again. Kind of like it for Han Solo too, except, well, he's going to get a bonus turn at the beginning. Shoot, gets another bonus turn because of this. Uses Deadeye, and then gets 100% turn meter. So Han's going to attack like a million times in a row. Fantastic for Han Solo. And then Dr. Aphra, this is going to apply to her, obviously. You want a light side Datacron for Aphra because she has a Scoundrel level 9 too. And if you have her level 9, just a spoiler, she gets a lot of bonus turns. And this is even more bonus turns. Once you get down to that basic, you're still going to get right around to the specialty. And she's going to be absolutely bonkers with this set. Another great one, whenever a Scoundrel ally defeats an enemy, take a bonus turn. This is widespread application. It just depends. I mean, how fast are you going to kill people? Like, if you do the killing blow with one of them, you're going to be amazing. In general, I like this for bounty hunters. I like this one too. This is probably the strongest one. That's why I gave it the infinity sign, but they're all really good, or both really good. The ability block, situational as well, but it is strong. Fennec is there because think of cleaning up Lord Vader. He's going to be constantly ability blocked. That is fantastic for her. And then L337, even if you're in a team that's not a lot of Scoundrels, she's going to be counterattacking and ability blocking people constantly, even though she's not a big damage dealer herself. And then Hondo, it'd be kind of nice to ability block people. I don't know. But it's situational. It's not like the strongest one, but it's a really annoying one. So just keep an eye out for that. And Revive Prevention is back. This makes JMK a viable option for Java. I feel like Dr. Aphra will be a great counter to Jawa this season, but Cat is the biggest application I can think of because her insta-kill is not normally revive prevention, but if you do, you're going to prevent Kirsan from ever coming back. Really nice, especially because Jawa's going to be pretty juiced up this season. There's other applications too. I mean, pretty much anything if you're taking against a reviving team like Night Sisters or one of these other newer teams that has revives, like a Dash team with Vandor. It's not that new, but it could be useful, but it is situational. And then the only one I really marked as bad as the Irresistible Blind, as long as no one has Blind. I just don't think it's impactful enough. Like ability block, you can be very strategic, very key. And Blind, yeah, you could, but the upside is kind of limited. The best upside I can think of is if like you blinded Supreme Leader Kylo Ren as he's about to do his swipe. That's a lot of damage avoided, but for the most part, you might not be able to control who you're blinding, and it just has limited upside. But these top two, I think, are fantastic. You can't go wrong. And the good thing about having 4 great abilities, as long as you roll light side and roll to Scoundrel, you're going to find something useful, and you don't have to worry about rerolling stats because they suck. And now on to the last leg of the review, the level 9 mechanics, starting with Tuskens. Again, there's a 1-team faction, so pick one and stick with it. A decent one is Tusken Warrior. It's kind of small print, but you get extra offense for him, and then when he uses Ambush, he's special. He dispels buffs and deals 20% more damage for each buff dispelled. So think like Boba Fett's Execution, like just stacking damage for dispelling the buffs. Whenever a Tusken ally assists during his turn, they recover 100% protection. So that could be a nice heal up thing. That's a decent one. The others, he's like assisting a lot. This is one we see with Wedge Antilles right now. Like it's just a constant assisting, which isn't really worth it because it's him. He doesn't do so much. Whenever an enemy's stunned, Shaman takes a bonus turn. It's kind of nice because they do stun a lot, just passively. But again, it's a Shaman term. That's not gonna be that important. Tusken Chieftain, it's kind of surprising that it's not as useful. But whenever another Tusken uses an ability, he assists. That is going to get you more momentum. And then whenever you inflict damage over time, you do an additional one. It's like okay, I guess. They all pair in comparison to Tusken Warrior. Tusken Warrior, he gets momentum 10 stacks at the start. So if they touch him, you're all gonna get stunned. It's for 3 turns. Whenever whenever she gains momentum, she also gains 2% crit damage and defense penetration per stack for the rest of the encounter. So a lot of stacking damage. Whenever finishing strikes defeats an enemy, they can't be revived. That's very nice, and you can revive the whole team. So this is a throwback to, like, I have a short where I beat a Starkiller team in TW with Tuskens, and Tusken Warrior issued the finishing blow. Can't talk. I delivered the finishing blow, and my whole team came back. So that is probably the strongest one you're going to go for. It's not going to be as good as the set 8 combo because we don't have that level 3 with protection up. But still, that is the best way to go. The wordy level 6 for Tuskens, and then the Tusken Warrior mechanic. Next up is Jawa's and 1-team faction. Jawa Engineer is okay. He's assisting, and I think that's giving out thermal detonators, which could be okay, I guess. It's actually not that good, honestly. There's only one you really want if you have Jawas. Dacha is getting turn meter for other allies using ability specials. It's not going to be that impactful. Then Jawa, like just generic normal Jawa, gains Foresight for 2 turns. And then evasion up. So he's going to be pretty dodgy. But you kind of don't even want that with Jawas. You want them to get hit. Then a bit more damage for Relic Amplifiers. This is like the Cad Bane one from set 6. Not impactful. The only one you really want to focus on is Jawa Scavenger, who is the star of the show. They are trash with that Scavenger. Scavenger always critically hits if able. That's kind of nice. First time he is defeated while there are any active allies. He revives with 100% health and gains stealth for 3 turns. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with thermal detonators, Jawa allies gain 10% defense stacking for 1 turn. There's a 50% chance to inflict additional thermals. So more thermals and then crazy defense. These guys give out a lot of thermal detonators. Think of if you got like just 5 out to the whole team. That's 25 thermal detonators. That's plus 250% defense. And think like the unaligned force user level 6 from Datacron set 11. This is applying after all stats are taken into account. So that defense is crazy. They're going to get to a point of basically invincibility, invulnerability, can't hurt them until they take a turn. It's going to be kind of difficult to handle Jawas, and I'm not exactly sure what to do with it. But the Jawa Scavenger mechanic, the big wordy level 6, going to be a fearsome team. Next up, second to last, is Hutt Cartel, another one-team faction, but a good one. And the decent ones to start, Chrysanthemum, you're going to have them there in any comp, 5v5 or 3v3 pretty much. And it's just reflecting damage back. It's kind of like Staunch Reprisal, or whatever General Skywalker gets in Conquest. Just some extra damage, but he doesn't take a ton of damage, so it might not be the best idea. Gamorrean Guard is actually surprisingly good, but it does require you to have Gam Guard in your team. The special is reduced by 2. If the ally in the leader slot is Hutt Cartel and not Gamorrean Guard. And I thought this was kind of interesting, because like, who puts him in the lead? But it's actually a nice safeguard against cheesing with him, because whenever they use an ability, he assists. So if he was in the lead and it didn't exclude him, he would just, like, he takes a turn, hits an ability, and the assist, like, keeps going. They could also get around it by saying limit once per turn. But whenever he inflicts damage over time, which does happen on his basic, you get a 50% chance to do an additional damage over time, and Hutt Cartel allies gain 10% max health and max protection. Usually they say stacking there. I think this is stacking, and it's like a permanent gain. So up to 50% max health and max protection, which is kind of crazy. It's basically like set 9 again with the bulky Datacrons. So it's strong, but it does require Gam Guard in there, which you probably won't want to do. Mob Enforcer, in theory, this is kind of strong, but it is Mob Enforcer, which is bad. Whenever they use a basic ability, they gain protection up 50% for 2 turns. That's a lot, and 50% turn meter. Whenever they use a damage an enemy using a special, they inflict fear, which can't be evaded or resisted. So it's a strong mechanic on like a good character, like because it's just such a nice bonus to have in there. But no one really uses Mob Enforcer with Jawa, so maybe you could. This could be a cheese, maybe with like a random other team. So like just put her in there, she can do fear. But I don't know. I don't really see it. Cad Bane. This is a repeat from set 5 maybe, or set 6. Extra damage for him, and if you think the whole team has like relic 8, that's 40 relic levels, that's 200% more damage, but still Cad Bane doesn't do a lot of damage to begin with, so I don't know, I wouldn't run it. The absolute best one is Boosh. The maximum cooldown of Inventive, her special, is reduced by 1, so more bomb detonations more often. Whenever Boosh inflicts a thermal, inflict another thermal for 2 turns. And Hutt Cartel allies gain 10% armor penetration, max 70%, and 10% turn meter. That's crazy. That is basically broken. She is always assisting. She's always giving thermal detonators out. She's always going to be giving turn meter out. Tons of extra armor penetration. And she can blow it up more often. Jawa's going to be pretty crazy with this Datacron set for 4 months. And if Afra doesn't work as a good counter, it's just going to be extremely hard to deal with. And a lot of players don't have Afra. Like, more people will have Jawa than Afra. But Jawa team with this boost Datacron, just look out. And now to the last set of mechanics, these Scoundrel level 9s. And remember, you have to be light side to get these active. Health 337 is decent, although I'm not exactly sure how it'll go in practice, because it says she deals an additional physical damage equal to 25% of her max health and gains turn meter when prepared. So the fact that it says physical damage makes me think it's just like a normal damage equation factoring in defense and then her own offense and her damage multiplier. If it's a true damage equal to 25% of her max health, that would be amazing. That might be like borderline broken because, well, probably not compared to some of the other stuff. But she counters a lot. Like, she's going to counter and do damage. If it is closer to like true damage, that's amazing. If it's just physical damage, you can kind of forget it because she does really bad damage anyway, so we'll see. I mean, it might be heavy hitting even regardless, so just keep an eye on it. Cara Dune, whenever she removes turn meter, so just the AoE, she deals an additional damage to them equal to 25% max health. Again, if it's like true damage, just like set fixed damage, that's going to be pretty nice. It's not going to like dominate, but it's just kind of a nice touch if you use her in a team. Although if you're running like a Mon Mothma team or even a Saw team, something else using Cara Dune right now, set 11 is preferable until that goes away. Veteran Smuggler Han. This has potential. This has some legs. Because he is not a negligible damage dealer on his own. Whenever he crits an enemy, and he can double tap on his basic, he gains 10% crit damage, defense, penetration, and offense, max 200% till the end of the battle. So that's like the holy trinity of damage. So if he's getting all of those, for every single hit, he is gaining a significant amount of damage. If you get 20 crits, which is going to take a while, but even less, he's going to be a damage dealing machine. So look out for people making use of this. I'd recommend higher relics for it, because higher the better for this multiplier effect. So some people have him at like Relic 7 or Relic 8, but that's more like endgame players or spenders. But yeah, he could be pretty good. The bad, IG-11, when they use an ability to deal more damage up to 100%, would have half their potency percentage. But he doesn't really do a lot of damage. Most of his damage contribution is from dots, from flipping your own debuffs, and that's not going to factor in. But just the damage she deals, it's not that impressive, so that's why I say this is bad. Then the strongest one, potentially in the whole set out of everything, is Dr. Aphra's level 9. We saw what this can do in set 6. It is a carbon copy of what she had in set 6, so we already know how devastating this can be. She also has a Scoundrel bonus, which was the same in set 6. Like, back then, it was just dark side Scoundrels, but she had access to that. You have to roll light side to get Dr. Aphra, so that's really something to keep in mind. You cannot get it with a dark side level 3. So if you're targeting this, only look at the light side ones. This is crazy. I mean, bonus turns whenever droids go. Her team is full of droids, so this might be a season not to use Darth Vader with her, just use a lot of droids. Pull them out wherever you can. It's ridiculous. Like, she destroyed Jabba, and I remember that very well. But she was new, and I only got to use this one on her for like a season or two, but I'm going to get to use it the whole time. So if you have Aphra, fantastic time for her. I wouldn't set her on defense, though, because I think she'll still get rolled by like Dash Han Chewie in 3v3 or CLS in 5v5, especially when they're utilizing the Scoundrel level 6 abilities. So just a Jabba killer. Probably a lot of other Galactic Legends I'm kind of forgetting, but she is going to be one heck of a force to be reckoned with this set. That's all the mechanics. Very last thing I want to talk about is reroll priorities for this set. For all these categories. So stats, I'm going to say big fat no. Don't waste rerolls on it. I don't even think the arm penetration is worth it. Even though I label that as good, don't bother. Alignment. You want more light side than dark side. And that's because you want more Scoundrels than anything else. The other sets, Jawa's, Tusken's, Hutt, Cartel, those are all like one team factions. So you'll need like one good Datacron. And then the rest you want Scoundrels. So you definitely want to reroll on faction. You want to get to Scoundrels. And the good thing is most of them are good. So once you hit Scoundrels, you're pretty much fine. And then there's there's obviously preferable characters within all these level 9 groupings. So you want to be rerolling this to try to get that character. The good news is you don't have to really worry about rerolling stats. So once you get those level 3 reroll materials for either your high stats or your level 9 abilities, save them to get the level 9 abilities you want. Don't reroll anything else until you get those. There's only a few of them you're really going to want. Like, I don't care about the Jawas. I care about Boosh, Tusken Warrior, and then Aphra, and then the rest I'm not really worried about. So there's not too many targets for me to hit. So yeah, this is the reroll priorities. Just load up on those Scoundrel faction level 6s. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how well they do without good stats. But let me know what you think. Ken, my host on Grand Arena Zone, seems to think that this is good and free player friendly, but I told him that's crazy. I do not think it's that great for free players. But maybe you disagree, so I'd like to hear your thoughts. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and all that. See ya.